or have another print disability which makes reading, holding a book, or turning a page difficult or impossible. The content is copyrighted by the respective publishers. For more information, please visit us on the web at nfradioreading.org.
Hello, this is Michelle. For the next hour, I'll be reading from the May 24th issue of the Sunday Gusto from the Buffalo News and the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. Cover story. What's next for late night? Picture. Late Show host Stephen Colbert was canceled last year with final episodes airing this past week. Picture. Jimmy Kimmel, Seth Meyers, John Oliver, and Jimmy Fallon appear on the May 11th episode of The Late Show alongside host Stephen Colbert. By Kelly Lawler. Stephen Colbert and CBS Late Show franchise said goodbye last week, but nobody really knows what's next. Such a frustrated Colbert announced the cancellation of the 3-decade-old talk show last July. The countdown to his farewell loomed over Colbert, the late-night genre, like a guillotine with a threadbare rope. As the show bows, only uncertainty looms on the other side of Colbert's farewell. CBS announced the comedy series Comics Unleashed with Byron Allen will take over Colbert's late-night slot, but it's unclear if that is a temporary or long-term solution. And as Colbert's colleagues, Jimmy Fallon from NBC The Tonight Show, Jimmy Kimmel from the ABC's Jimmy Kimmel Live, and Seth Meyers from NBC's Late Night resume their normal routines in a world without Colbert's nightly voice. Will they be waiting for the blade to fall on their known necks? It does feel like the end of an era, says Jason Lynch, curator at the Pauley Center for Media. For decades, it seemed unfathomable that late night as we know it would ever cease to exist. Now it's fair to speculate if the current group of late night hosts will be the very last people to ever have those jobs. Will CBS return to a traditional late night talk show? From the moment Colbert announced the cancellation of his show, speculation ran rampant about the motive behind the move from CBS and parent company Paramount, now Paramount Skydance. At the time, Paramount called it a purely financial decision, while commentators cried foul and pointed out that Colbert had recently criticized his bosses and the company was in the middle of a merger with Skydance. Skydance was helmed by CEO David Ellison, son of prominent Donald Trump supporter Larry Ellison. David Ellison is now the CEO of the newly merged Paramount Skydance, which is also in the process of acquiring storied Hollywood studio Warner Brothers. Did prominent Trump critic Colbert not fit in with the political mood of the new regime? Was Paramount worried about approval of its merger? Or was it purely mercenary as the media industry fights to stay alive? It's possible that two things can be true, Colbert said recently to the New York Times. Broadcasts can be in trouble. They cannot monetize because of things like YouTube, because of the competition of streaming. They've got the books, and I do not have any desire to debate them over what they say their business model is and how it does not work for them anymore. But less than 2 years before they called to say it's over, they were very eager for me to be signed for a long time, so something changed. Comics Unleashed is a very different show than Late Show, and it is ultimately less expensive. Media mogul and producer Byron Allen campaigned heavily to get his self-funded show in the time slot, and he was convincing enough for CBS to grant it to him for the 2026-27 season. But like any TV show in the current media landscape, there are no guarantees about the future. What could go in the time slot if comics doesn't last? Well, there's always the possibility that the network could simply run reruns of primetime programming or some other extremely cheap outsourced show just to keep the lights on. But saying goodbye to Late Show doesn't mean CBS is forbidden from trying the talk show format again someday. While ratings are declining on broadcast at 11:35, there's no denying that distinctly conservative talk host Greg Gutfeld is drawing in viewers at 10 p.m. on Fox News. Gutfeld, however, has the advantage of airing in the earlier prime time window, where more viewers are simply awake and tuning in across all networks. Shows like Chicago PD or on NBC or Boston Blue on CBS routinely draw 3 to 4 million viewers at 10 p.m., and Gutfeld hovers around 3 million. Will CBS one day choose a host with a different point of view for 11:35? Onlookers can only guess and speculate. Is this the end of late-night TV as we know it? For years, broadcast late-night TV comedians saw declining audiences, lean more toward political humor over cultural takes, and struggled to adapt to a modern media landscape where streaming services, YouTube, and TikTok compete with traditional TV viewing. In 2025, CBS ended its 12:30 a.m. series comedy panel show After Midnight after just over a year, when host Taylor Tomlinson decided to leave in favor of her stand-up career. Seth Meyers' Late Night on NBC acts its live in-studio band as a cost-cutting measure in 2024. Late-night talk shows have been an essential part of television going back to when The Tonight Show began in 1954. Paul, a curator Lynch, says the current group of shows and hosts have proven that there's still plenty of life left in the format, and what happens on those shows still occasionally has the potential to make global headlines and dominate the pop culture conversation. Just look at the latest feud between Trump and Kimmel, as the breathless coverage of the final few episodes of Colbert's Reign, or Fallon launching yet another new show on NBC. There's history here and powerful voices. There's cultural cachet and moments of unity and catharsis to be found in these men in suits telling jokes. It wouldn't hurt for more women to get in the game. There is value even if the genre has to evolve. We have to follow the laughs to find out what happens next. Music. A Night at the Sportsman's with Grosh. Photos by Harry Skull. Photo of bassist Dylan Hunn, vocalist Megan Brown. Photo of guitarist Grace Grogan, and photo of drummer Josh English. Gritty rock quartet Grosh brought their high-energy sound to the Sportsman's Tavern on May 15th for the official public premiere and video release party for their track Don't Trust Nobody. The Buffalo-based band started as a duo with guitarist Grace Grogan and drummer Josh English. Their combined first names formed the band's name and soon evolved into a foursome with the addition of singer Megan Brown and bassist Dylan Hunt. Movies. Citizen Kane at 85. Examining the enduring legacy of Orson Welles' critically acclaimed film by Gregor Toll. In May 1941, Citizen Kane premiered in a New York cinema. The black and white film, directed by and starring Orson Welles, who was 25 at the time, tells the story of fictional media mogul Charles Foster Kane. It was a box office flop. 85 years later, it's considered among the greatest films ever made. So, what's it about, Citizen Kane, that makes it so acclaimed? Claiming its spot among the greatest. In 1952, the team behind the journal Sight and Sound, published by the British Film Institute, had the idea of asking critics to name the greatest films of all time. This poll has been repeated every 10 years since and is of course, just one of many best-of lists. In 1962, 1972, 82, 92, and 2002, Citizen Kane topped this prestigious list. In the most recent list from 2022, Citizen Kane ranks third, behind Alfred Hitchcock's Vertigo in second place. Vertigo was number 1 in 2012. First place is now Chantal Ackerman's 1975 feminist work, Jeannie Dielman. Full name, Jeannie Dielman 23, Quadu Commerce, 1080 Bruxelles, available on Mubi. Meanwhile, on IMDb's list of top 250 films, Citizen Kane ranks 113th, according to the website's millions of voters. The Shawshank Redemption ranks number 1 in 1994. Plot points of Citizen Kane. In Citizen Kane, a group of reporters tries to explain the last word reportedly spoken by newspaper magnate and politician Charles Kane, who died alone. That word is Rosebud. The film opens with a newsreel informing the public about Kane's life. A series of flashbacks then shows various scenes from that life. By the end, the mystery of Rosebud is solved. Audiences watch as Kane inherits a vast fortune as a young boy, builds a media empire as a young adult, and ultimately becomes a ruthless man of power. What makes the film special? The film made considerable demands of audiences in 1941. Extensive use of deep focus, symbolically charged reflections, strong contrast, and sequences shot from extreme high and low angles. Citizen Kane also was revolutionary for the development of sound in film, then still relatively new. Welles had actors talk over one another and interrupt each other, unheard of at the time. Citizen Kane at the Oscars. After Citizen Kane was released, media tycoon William Hearst, who believed the film was about him, launched a campaign against Welles, co-writer Herman Mankiewicz, and the film studio RKO. Despite its box office failure, the film was a hit with cinephiles from the start. At the 1942 Oscars, it received 9 nominations and won 1 award for Best Original Screenplay, shared between Welles and Mankiewicz. In 2020, Netflix released Mank, a film starring Gary Oldman as Mankiewicz that tells the story of his dispute with Welles over the Citizen Kane screenplay. Manx, directed by David Fincher, received 10 Oscar nominations in 2021. It won 2 awards for Best Cinematography and Best Production Design, surpassing the single Oscar won by Citizen Kane. You are listening to reading of articles and features from the May 24th issue of the Sunday Gusto from the Buffalo News, the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. Things to do. Memorial Day events, outdoor activities ramp up by Tony Roberto. Let our outdoor season officially begin as the long Memorial Day weekend brings new activities, expanded programming, and concerts. Take our picturesque outer harbor, while you can enjoy leisurely walks along the pedestrian trail at Wilkeson Point all year. You'll now be able to play park golf, the all-age sport that combines traditional golf and croquet, and beach volleyball, plus rent a kayak or paddleboard. In June, look for free fitness in the park classes. Learn more and sign up for all activities at BuffaloWaterfront.com. The Outer Harbor also is home to Terminal B, one of our 3 major outdoor concert venues, which are all opening their seasons Friday. Terminal B at the Outer Harbor hosts an evening with veteran rock band Cake at 8 p.m. Art Park has award-winning country musician and Yellowstone star Ryan Brigham and the Texas Gentlemen at 8 in the main stage theater. And there's more country music at the Darien Lake Amphitheater with Hardy, Tucker, Wetmore, and McCoy Moore at 7 p.m. Memorial Day parades and activities, various locations. Many towns and villages are hosting parades in remembrance of military members who died in service. Here are a few. Lockport, 1 p.m. Saturday in Veterans Park. Lewiston, 11 a.m. Monday, Academy Park. Kenmore, Tonawanda, 11 a.m. Monday in Delaware Avenue. Clarence American Legion Parade, 11 a.m. Monday on Crouse Road, with a noon service in Clarence Town Park and Marilla, 1 p.m. Monday on Two Rod Road. If you're near Canal Side, stop by the Buffalo and Erie County Naval and Military Park, where Memorial Day ceremonies start at 9:30 Monday with the Buffalo Brass Quintet. At 10 a.m. there will be a military honors and non-denominational memorial service near the Vietnam Memorial, followed by memorial ceremonies by the Knights of Columbus Maximilian Kolbe Assembly, number 1944, at 10 a.m. The Hispanic veterans at noon and the Vietnam veterans at 1. The Slow Roll Buffalo Memorial Day ride starts at 6:30 p.m. Retro Tuesdays. Starting Tuesday at the Transit Drive-In, South Transit Road, Lockport. Memorial Day weekend also means the drive-in will now be open daily with movies on all 5 screens. More good news. The Retro Tuesday series returns starting May 26th with a celebration of Ron Reiner and Nora Ephron when Harry Met Sally, Sleepless in Seattle. Future pairings include the Texas Chainsaw Massacre and A Late Nightmare on Elm Street on June 2nd, Mamma Mia and Pitch Perfect on June 9th, and Stand By Me and Dazed and Confused on June 16th. The full schedule is at thetransitdrivein.com. Riverfest Park Wednesday night concerts, 6:30 to 10 Wednesdays at Riverfest Park, Ohio Street. This annual summer concert series opens Wednesday with classic rock and oldies performed by Crash Cadillac. The music continues each Wednesday through September 2nd, except July 1st. Bring a chair or a blanket. Coolers are not permitted, but refreshments will be sold. See this full schedule at BuffaloRiverWorkPark.com. Jefferson Avenue Music Festival, 4 to 9, Friday at Perkins Park, East Ferry Street at DuPont. Second year for this music festival, celebrating the historic Jefferson Avenue corridor with music and community connections. Music is by Quincy Motley Allen Band, Will Holton Band, and the Unity Band. The event is presented by the Buffalo Police Department, the Genetic Coal AMVEC Post 24, and the African American Veterans Arts and Culture Corporation. American Association of University Women Book Sale, 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. Wednesday to Saturday and 10 to 5 next Sunday, S.J. Road, Williamsville. There are book sales, and then there's the enormous AAUW event that has so much to sell that it needs 5 days. At this 70th annual fundraiser, you'll find new and used hardcover, paperbacks, DVDs, CDs, albums, games, puzzles, audiobooks, and book accessories. Admission is free May 31st, where you can fill a grocery-sized bag for $5. Items cost 50 cents to $8 for new hardcovers, with many priced at only $1 or $2. Learn more at aauw/buffalo.org. Hamburg Music Festival. Music starts at 4 Friday and noon on Saturday at Memorial Park, Lake Street, Hamburg. For nearly 20 years, this non-profit festival has filled Hamburg with live music outside and indoors while supporting individuals, schools, and organizations doing real and actionable good in our community. That includes handing out more than 100 scholarships. This year has more than 40 bands performing on 20 stages at 15 venues. Wristbands 26 to 37 admit you to the park. All venues provide unlimited rides on the music bus. Learn more at hamburgmusicfestival.com. Silkscreen's Buffalo Horror Garage Sale, noon to 6 Saturday and 11 to 5 next Sunday at the Marriott Hotel, Millersport Highway, Amherst. There will be plenty of horror-themed items to buy, such as clothing, jewelry, art, books, and movies, along with the chance to meet horror favorites. There's a Frankenhooker reunion with Frank Hellenlotter and James Lorenz, plus appearances by Greta Demons, Jill Schoelen from Popcorn, When a Stranger Calls Back, Lisa Langlois from The Nest and Happy Birthday to Me, and Benny Graves from Rue Morgue magazine. Stop by the Screening Room Cinema and Arts Cafe Booth 2. The Francis Bacon Experiment will present a Rocky Horror Picture Show, Shadowcast at 2 p.m. next Sunday. Quick calendar. Jim Kelly and Thurman Thomas autograph signing 6 p.m. Wednesday at Dave and Adams, Sheridan Drive, Williamsville. Don McLean, 7:30 Thursday at the Riviera Theater, North Tonawanda. Sesame Street Live, Elmo's Got the Moves, 6 p.m. Thursday, Art Park Main Stage Theater, Lewiston. John Lovitz, 8 p.m. Friday and Saturday in the Bears Den Showroom, the Niagara Resort and Casino, Niagara Falls. Just announced, Jason Bonham's Led Zeppelin Tour, 7 p.m. September 3rd at Art Park Amphitheater, Lewiston. The Arkells with the Maine, 7 p.m. August 15th, Terminal B at the Outer Harbor. Old 60 with Garrett Elias, Colton Moore, and the Cleaver Few, 7 p.m. October 3rd at Terminal B, the Outer Harbor. Erie County Fair Motor Events, Monster Truck Smash, 7:30 August 21st, Ultimate Night of Destruction, 7:30 August 22nd, and Demolition Derby at 1 and 6 p.m. August 23rd. All events are at the Grandstand, with tickets going on sale June 5th. Riviera Theater, just announced. Night Ranger, November 5th. Tickets on sale now for Memorial Week sale, May 26th through June 1st only. Linger Cranberries Tribute, June 13th. Green Day Tribute, July 18th. Get both shows for $25. Smells Like Nirvana, May 29th. Like Combs, Tribute to Luke Combs, May 30th. Tapestry, Carole King Songbook, June 5th. Awaken, The Music of Yes, June 6th. Beach Party Boys, June 12th. Land of Oz, Ozzy Osbourne, June 19th. Burlesque, starring Danny Diesel and Friends, June 27th. Yellow Brick Road, Tribute to Elton John, July 10th and 11th. The Music of Phil Collins and Genesis, July 24th and 25th. Montgomery Gentry, featuring Eddie Montgomery, with special guest Jeffrey Steele, August 6th. Furious, Hip Hop Legends live in concert, August 8th. World Tour, DSL, Dire Straits Legacy, August 15th. Sinatra and Streisand, a tribute to Barbara and Frank, August 21st. Television. Light in the Dark. Judith Light sees new series as a way to talk about important subjects. Judith Light's electric and award-winning career depends on her approach to the roles she takes. By Bruce Miller. My work is my service, she explains. When promoting something like The Terror, The Devil in Silver, the Emmy and Tony winner gets to talk about issues like mental health. People respond to that. Our business responds to that, Light says. They know that I will take seriously what they are bringing forward and the message they are trying to get out there. That matters to people, and I think they know that about me. Light first tripped the trigger on One Life to Live, where she performed a courtroom scene that is now regarded as one of the finest examples of daytime acting. The role won her 2 Emmys and led to primetime offers. It really comes down to the work that I have to do prior to doing the character, she says. There are things you can find in yourself that you can draw on. In The Terror, she plays Dory, a longtime patient at the New Hyde Psych Center Hospital. She tries to advise a newcomer, played by Dan Stevens, who isn't supposed to be there. The series gives her a chance to talk about mental health in the U.S. and what it means to be in the world in a healthcare system that diminishes people. Not everywhere, but in many places, she says. Light says she gets roles like Dory because she's a team player. I'm not making it about myself. I'm making it about all the other aspects of the work, and that comes into play a lot, she says. You get a reputation over time, and there are people who say, this is a person I want to work with. After a long run on Who's the Boss, Light landed roles on Law & Order, Special Victims Unit, Ugly Betty, and Dallas before joining Transparent, a dramedy that brought numerous Emmy nominations and 2 Broadway shows that netted her a pair of Tonys. People feel strongly that I have integrity, Light says, and that matters to audiences. They know that I would speak the truth about stuff. A string of productions kept her extremely busy in recent years, including an Emmy for a 2024 role on Poker Face. Our industry has finally caught up with the fact that mature women have a lot to talk about, the 77-year-old says. A lot of people are writing those kinds of characters. Look at Kathy Bates and Jamie Lee Curtis. They have stories to tell. I'm proud to be part of that. For The Terror, Light had to shoot in a decommissioned New York prison. It was pretty creepy, but it was also like a prison, Light said. That added to the authenticity and helped the cast address things that make viewers scared, she says. It's like the scary thing that happens to you when you're on a roller coaster and your heart is in your throat, she explains. It makes us feel alive or connected. This is not just creepy. This is psychologically thrilling, this show. The Terror isn't another One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, Light says. It's about patients in a mental facility, but this is not about who can stand up for themselves. There's no Nurse Ratched, she says. Dory, she said, is like Cassandra crying in the wilderness and saying, you need to know about this place. And then other times just saying she had to surrender because nobody would listen to her. The series genre wasn't the lure. It was who the people that I was going to be working with, Light says. You are listening to a reading of articles and features from the May 24th issue of the Sunday Gusto from the Buffalo News. Books. Love The Correspondent? More titles you'll devour. By Chris Hewitt. There are books you read and think might have been created just for you. There are the books you can't wait to discuss with your book club. And then there are books you read and think, just about every reader I know would love this. That's the category I'd put The Correspondent in. Clearly I'm not the only one. Nudged along by a glowing blurb from novelist Ann Patchett, Virginia Evans' debut did okay when it appeared a year ago. But then librarians and booksellers started falling in love with it and recommending it. It grew into a #1 bestseller that's soon to be adapted into a movie starring Jane Fonda as the title character. An opinionated retiree, a slightly sweeter take on Elizabeth Strauss' Olive Kitteridge, who writes letters to neighbors, businesses, and her alchemy at a nearby college. It's not overly sentimental, but it's warm, funny, rich with characters, and has a happy ending. I'm not saying it's my favorite book last year, but it is a work that I have a hard time imagining the person who wouldn't enjoy. The correspondent doesn't fit easily in any genre, but it has antecedents books in which older people rediscover their sense of purpose. It's a popular genre too, since that also describes blockbusters Theo of Golden and A Man Called Ove, classics such as Leslie Marmon, Silko's Ceremony, and just published The Last Letters of Sally and Walter. If you've already enjoyed Evan's book, the only bad news is it's too late for you to discover it. The good news, we know some others you'll also probably love. The Heaven and Earth Grocery Store by James McBride. The National Book Award winner's playful latest is the most complicated and in some sections darkest book on this list. It's a lot of things: a mystery, a portrait of close-knit community, a tribute to wisdom and maturity. Heaven and Earth is set in a Pennsylvania neighborhood mostly populated by Black and Jewish residents who, united by feeling like outcasts, support each other. That's helpful when a mysterious skeleton is discovered in the bottom of a well in the 1970s. Eventually, McBride lets us know what happened in a chain of human connections that dates back to the 1930s. Emily Alone by Stuart Onan. Versatile Onan has probably written at least one book to fit any reader, whether they like pulse-pounding nonfiction like The Circus Fire, historical fiction like West of Sunset, or to get weirdly specific, Wisconsin-set tragedies, A Prayer for the Dying. The only caveat about Onan's 4 books about Emily Maxwell, who's in her 70s when we meet her, is that they were written and published in non-chronological order, so you must decide in what order to read them. I'd start with Wish You Were Here, which introduces resourceful, occasionally ill-tempered widow Emily and her adult children, but you could also go with sunnier Henry himself, which backtracks to introduce us to her husband, Henry. Emily Alone is my favorite of the 4 because it's such a detailed portrait of someone whose behavior rings so true, whether it's tidying up before her cleaner arrives or regretting pieces of her life she feels duty-bound to part with. Then you get to end so far with last year's Evening Song, a sad, funny triumph that finds Emily creating a family of choice in a retirement community. Major Pettigrew's Last Stand by Helen Simonson. All of the British author novels, including The Hazelbourne Ladies and Motorcycle Flying Club and The Summer Before the War, fit into this cozy category of books. But her first, Pettigrew, is the best. It's set in one of those quaint English villages Agatha Christie used to write about, but no one gets murdered. Instead, the titular widower begins to realize his friendship with Pakistani neighbor may be more than a friendship, and this being England, his neighbors may not approve. The book is set in roughly the present, but feels like it could have been decades ago, which is part of the appeal of Simonson's hopeful, compassionate writing. Old Souls at Night by Ken Harif. Fonda also starred in the movie version of this one, her final pairing with Robert Redford. Gentle and Spare, Our Souls is one of several overlapping Harif novels set in small towns in Colorado, so a few characters will be familiar to fans of other Harif titles, such as his biggest seller, Plain Song. Harif's final book of Our Souls was published several months after his 2014 death, and it reflects the yearnings of a person at the end of his life, as well as the loneliness at the core of many books on the list. Its main characters are Addie and Lewis, 2 septuagenarians who reach an agreement to sleep with each other, not to have sex, just to sleep and cuddle. News of the World by Paulette Giles. At the heart of the books on this list is usually this question: what person or creature will wake up the main character? Here, it's a remote, wounded child. Jefferson Kidd, a crusty veteran of the War of 1812, becomes the reluctant caretaker of a girl, agreeing to drive her across dangerous Texas territory to relatives she doesn't know. Eventually, Kidd opens up to the child and realizes that what he needs, like the protagonist of most of these books, it's someone who needs him. The Satisfaction Cafe by Kathy Wong. The shadow of Olive Kitteridge hovers over many of these books, but the most Olive-esque character who is not Olive is Joan Lang. Her life is vaguely unsatisfying until, once her children are adults, she opens a cafe where people can come and talk about their problems to compensate to compassionate strangers. Wang makes the weird, maybe even vaguely creepy concept sing, and cantankerous, resourceful, intuitive Joan is one of the most memorable literary creations in years. Sidsworth by Simon Van Bowie. As this sweetly comic novel opens, elderly widow Helen Cartwright has moved back to her childhood village to die. Grieving both her husband and her son, Helen thinks it's all over for her until an unexpected friend, a mouse named Slipworth, helps her realize she still has a lot of living to do. I know. Pawing around with a mouse sounds like the makings of a terrible twee mess, but Sidsworth is unforgettable. Inescapable Summer, Ghost. Tom Perrotta explores grief in the new novel Ghost Town by Chris Hewitt. Best-selling novelist Tom Perrotta built up legions of fans with concept-forward, simple-to-encapsulate books such as Election, Little Children, Mrs. Fletcher, and The Leftovers. The first two were made into movies. The latter two became HBO series. Set in 1970s suburban New Jersey, Perrotta's latest book, Ghost Town, isn't as easy to summarize them and might not have what it takes for HBO because it's about a concept rather than a situation, and that concept is grief. High school student Jimmy Perini is lost as the book opens. His mom has died of cancer, and his older sister and father are too shattered to be helpful, so he drifts into a hazardous friendship with a miscreant, an unpaid gig with a youth sports organization, and an ill-defined possible romance with a girl from the organization who, like Jimmy, does not think she belongs in their cookie-cutter suburb. Readers of Perrotta's previous books may be surprised to find that not a lot happens in Ghost Town. His other books had high school corruption, doomed romance, or the rapture at their centers, but Ghost Town is mostly a character portrait. As if he feels self-conscious about the lack of narrative momentum, Perrotta sprinkles ominous notes throughout the novel, hinting that if Jimmy had made different decisions, a tragedy could have been avoided. But what does happen feels fairly incidental to Ghost Town, other than providing a reason for Jimmy to return to his hometown decades later for a ceremony honoring his now-deceased father. What Ghost Town shares with Perrotta's other books is his insight into how character dictates action, and specifically how a few seemingly small choices can affect the rest of a person's life. From the beginning of the book, we know Jimmy will survive and even thrive. Some details of his career mirror Perrotta's, but we also know that he's never stopped being shaped by the things that happened during the summer of Ghost Town. As the older Jimmy observes about his work as a writer, the truth is it's all been one thing, just a bunch of variations on the only themes that have ever mattered to me. Ghosts and orphans, orphans and ghosts, the way we're abandoned and never left alone. Those are universal sentiments, and they underscore why the brisk, resonant Ghost Town might be Perrotta's best book. I've enjoyed all of his novels, but it feels like he pared this one down to its essence which is beautiful and true. How we stay connected to the people we've lost, and how we learn to move on. Taste. Barrel and brine turns food waste into a venue stream. Some food doesn't get eaten. Apples become unfashionable and rot on trees. Supermarkets turn away ugly produce. A peach that never gets chosen by farmers market shoppers and bakes in the sun all morning faces the compost pile when it gets home. An act of vandalism renders thousands of gallons of beer undrinkable. Lindsay and R.J. Marvin can salvage it all. We're just trained as a society to push aside the blemished stuff, said R.J. Marvin. There's just no need for it to be thrown out. At Barrel and Brine, the Marvin's fermentation company in Black Rock, food waste becomes kombucha, vinegar, seltzers, and shrubs. Rejected foods stop being a financial and environmental burden. They get new lives. Now they're another revenue stream for farmers and flavorful products for customers. We saw the fate that happens to a lot of these farmers, Lindsay Marvin said. They would drive all the way to the grocery store to sell their products, might get turned away because it's undersized or blemished, or just not cosmetically perfect. It would either be disposed of on site in a dumpster, or they would have to drive all the way back to their farm to dispose of it and compost it. It was wasteful on so many levels, and there's so much potential for that produce. Barrel and Brine turned down opportunities to save more produce last summer because they didn't have enough equipment. But that won't happen again this summer. The Marvins recently received a $100,000 state grant to triple their efforts and buy more fermentation tanks. They hope to save 5,000 pounds of food waste this summer and 10,000 pounds next summer. Food waste has already proved to be useful and delicious at Barrel and Brine. They've made quince vinegar from excess Lynn Oaken Farms fruit. The couple mashed thousands of Concord grapes from Erdel Farm by hand to make grape vinegar. Buffalo Brewing Company's beer is currently in the process of becoming malt vinegar. There's a lot of stuff that I think people throw the product away because they panic, said Lindsay Marvin, but we can save it. Here's how it works. To make the Concord grape vinegar, for example, the Marvins mashed grapes, then fermented them in a stainless steel tank topped with a cloth to let the food breathe. It ferments with its own yeast and the yeast flying around in the air. That turns into wine, though not a very good one, R.J. Marvin said. They strain the wine and add it to another tank with a SCOBY, which is a gel-like blob of bacteria, and yeast that feels like skin and looks like it belongs at the bottom of the ocean. Sometimes when Lindsay prunes the SCOBY, she brings its trimmings to the woods to feed to the deer. I look like a crazy person. I'm dragging contractor bags with this thing that looks like a body into the woods, she said, but I feel bad throwing it out. The SCOBY eats the alcohol and releases acetic acid as a byproduct. They strain it again, blend it with fruit juice to tone down its strength, and end up with their signature vinegars and shrubs. Their shrubs, which are syrupy, sweetened drinking vinegars, work well as non-alcoholic liqueurs, blended with seltzer water for a summery mocktail or added to a salad dressing. The blueberry shrub taste is punchy and thick as the goo inside of a fruit gusher. It's live, raw, and probiotic, which is a huge point of difference from most vinegars you would find on the market, Lindsay Marvin said. It's not just something that's steeped with the fruit. It's actually made with the actual fruit itself, so it's stronger and better flavor. Barrel and Brine sells their products back to farmers at a lower wholesale price. The farmers then sell the products at their farm shops and farmers market stands for the retail price and make a profit. Having the ability as a farmer to take something that would be thrown away, be able to trade it to get product that you can then sell during the winter months when maybe it's a little tight and maybe there isn't a lot of stuff for them to sell is great, Lindsay Marvin said. Barrel plus Brine opened in 2015, beginning in a 300 square foot west side space, then moving into an airy former warehouse on Chandler Street. The Marvins opened their tap room and store from noon to 6 Friday and Saturday and 11 to 3 Sunday. Kombucha and seltzers and flavors such as strawberry, pineapple, pear, honey are on tap. Just outside the doors is a grassy courtyard where guests can picnic. Buffalo's kombucha boom of 2010 has slowed, but Barrel plus Brine hasn't. Not that they only make kombucha. They pickle spears will soon be served with lunch at Buffalo Public Schools. And when Highmark Stadium opens later this summer, the hot dogs and hamburgers will be topped with their pickles. Their products are sold at their Black Rock Tap Room, as well as both Lexington Co-op locations, Farmers and Artisans in Snyder, the Elmwood Bidwell Farmers Market every Saturday morning, and on their website. Plus you can find their pickles and kimchi on sandwiches at local restaurants like Bread Hive and Chandler Street breweries. There definitely seems to be a mindset shift recently, Lindsay Marvin said. We've heard customers wanting and asking for more information about where their food is coming from. Restaurant news. It was a difficult winter for Western New York restaurants. Read about the 12 eateries have closed so far on 2026 on BuffaloNews.com. Armory Restaurant, an Italian eatery operated by undercover narcotics cop, closed its doors after 80 years. News reporter Dan Herbeck recounts the restaurant's fascinating history at BuffaloNews.com. Amherst-based hot dog chain Ted's Hot Dogs is experimenting at its new Arizona restaurant. Welcome, Ted's Breakfast and a Ted's Drive-Thru. Lists are all the rage. On a list ranking national supermarkets, Wegmans ranked number 13, while Tops Market ranked number 34. Food events. Food Truck Tuesday returns from 5 to 8 June 2nd at Larkin Square, Seneca Street. Food trucks and live music will happen every Tuesday from June 2nd through August 25th. The food trucks rotate. The starting lineup includes Dirty Bird Chicken and Waffles, Falafel Bar, Sun Cuisine, and many more. The New York State Craft Brewers Festival is from 1 to 6 June 13th at Canal Side, Prime Street. More than 50 breweries from across the state will be at the festival, offering beer samples. The festival also includes games like keg toss, a food truck rodeo, and live music from the Big Ditch Brewing Company's owner, Matt Kahn's band. The beer vendor list is full of local breweries, but the festival is also a chance to try beers from breweries you may not yet know about. Tickets are $50 for general admission, $70 for general admission plus, which includes an earlier entry time, and $107 for VIP, which includes an earlier entry time and a beer and wing pairing lunch. Kombucha. A decadent cake that's worthy of a celebration by Diana Rosen. There are some cakes for snacking, others for informal meals, and then there's a mocha celebration cake. This is the cake I prepare for a special occasion. While you need to purchase a 12-inch round cake pan, you'll be glad you have it on hand once you've tasted this divine chocolate coffee mashup moist and finished with a decadent ganache frosting. Sometimes I change up the decorations with colorful edible flowers around the cake. A scoop of vanilla ice cream is the perfect accompaniment. Have a ball. Neapolitan tradition, the meat is the star, no pasta needed. By Christopher Kimball. Naples, Italy may be famous for its pizza, but the meatballs are just as deserving of worldwide acclaim. Massive orbs of ground beef are set in a shallow pool of ragu, red and glistening, and are served as often alongside pasta as without. Despite their impressive size, they're light and ultra tender thanks to a high ratio of bread to meat. In this recipe from our cookbook, Milk Street Backroads, Italy, we use Japanese panko breadcrumbs, which have a neutral flavor and light and fluffy but coarse texture. It greatly streamlines the meatball making process, eliminating the need to remove the crust from fresh bread. Soak it in water and squeeze out excess moisture. Panko only needs to be moistened with water and it's ready to use. Don't be shy about mixing the panko. Meat mixture with your hands. It takes a few minutes to work the mixture together until homogeneous. To help the meatballs keep their shape, chill them for 15 to 20 minutes before baking. Neapolitans serve their meatballs with a basic tomato sauce they refer to as ragu. After baking, be sure to let the meatballs rest for about 10 minutes before adding them to the sauce. Pecorino is used two ways in this recipe. A chunk is simmered in the sauce and a portion is grated both in and over the meatballs. Serve with warm crusty bread or pasta alongside, though the latter isn't traditional. Neapolitan meatballs with ragu. 4 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil, 1 large onion, kosher salt, 6 medium garlic cloves, finely grated, 1½ teaspoons of red pepper flakes, 6 ounces of panko breadcrumbs, 3 ounces of pecorino romano cheese, grated, 1 large egg plus 1 large egg yolk beaten together, 1½ pounds of lean ground beef, 2 28-ounce cans of whole peeled tomatoes, and 6 to 8 large basil leaves. You have been listening to a reading of articles and features from the May 24th issue of the Sunday Gusto. Your reader has been Michelle. Thank you for listening.
Coming up next in the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service, we have the front section of the Sunday Times. At 2 o'clock, we have the New York Times Opinion section. And at 3 o'clock, we have the New York Times Arts and Leisure section. Stay with us for these readings and more throughout the day. If you're listening to this publication online, you're probably using our website, a podcast player like Spotify or iTunes, a streaming service like Siro, or a smart speaker. Did you know that we now have a dedicated app that can be downloaded to any mobile device, like a smartphone or tablet, for free? App users can conveniently access our live stream and any episode of our podcast easier than ever. To download the app, just type NFRRS in the search window in the Apple App Store or in the Google Play Store. Contact us anytime if you have any questions by calling 716-821-5555, extension 5. Thank you. You're listening to the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. As of this year, our agency has broadcast more than 300,000 hours of radio readings. Volunteer radio readers read newspapers, magazines, and books to area people who are blind or have a print disability, who are provided reading radios. Radio Reading's broadcast signal is provided at no charge by WNED. Radio Reading broadcasts from studios at 1199 Harlem Road in suburban Buffalo. Please let others know about Radio Reading. It's your service. For more information on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service, call 716-821-5555. following program is intended for listeners who are blind, have low vision, or have another print disability, which makes reading, holding